Mass trials and executions erupted across the country.
This channel is part of the History Hit network.
This is the British Isles, 400 years ago.
You will be hanged by the neck until you are dead.
Mass trials and executions erupted across the country. And the reason for this chaos and violence was witches. People were convinced they sank ships, brought famine and disease, murdered and maimed, because witches worked for Satan. Hundreds of innocent people were persecuted,
Thou a witch?
tortured, and put to death in a hysterical effort to stamp out the scourge of witchcraft. Imagine living in that world. You could be accused, tortured, and executed on the basis of nothing more than gossip and superstition. How could such a deadly and violent idea have got so out of control in Britain? What drove the persecutors to such awful lengths? And what was it like for the victims who were tortured and executed for crimes they couldn't possibly have committed?
Unhand me!
This is the extraordinary story of how the terror of satanic witchcraft infected the British Isles and plunged it into chaos. Queen Anne's ships had been battered by a violent storm. One ship sank, Anne's almost capsized. The badly damaged convoy had limped back to Scandinavia. King James decided he would have to go and fetch his new wife himself. But James would bring back far more than just a new queen from Denmark. James arrived here at Kronborg Castle near Copenhagen in January 1590. His crossing had been equally violent. The world James walked into was very different to his native Scotland.
Hej, mit navn er Steffen, og velkommen til Seniorshop.
Witch hysteria was infecting mainland Europe. Hundreds had already been executed as witches. Tens of thousands would follow. The violence, fear, and hysteria spreading across Europe were largely the result of one incendiary book. Here at the Royal Danish Library is one of the very few original copies.
This is the Malleus Maleficarum, or the Hammer of the Witches. It was principally written by one German Dominican monk called Heinrich Kramer, and he wrote it to argue that witches existed and that they worked for the devil. It was a legal manual for the hunting and executing of witches.
The Malleus Maleficarum pushed Cranmer's terrifying belief that witches were obsessed with poison.
Wanted to live out their ideal of a devout Christian community.
The dogs delight to bark and bite, for God hath made them so. Let bears and lions growl and fight, for 'tis their nature too. But children, you should never let such angry passions rise. The little hands were never made to tear each other's eyes.
Samuel Parris' daughters and nieces were among them. Parris was the leading minister in Salem, New England. What would today be considered an innocent game by children was a shameful lapse for these strictly devout Puritans. All people are deeply sinful, even the children, and forever tempted by the devil.
Everything to do with us. You know, we still live in a moment where we are afraid of people we don't understand. And I think that's one reason why it's important to keep talking about Salem, why it's important that we don't let it be consigned to the past.
There's probably a theory for every day of the year as to what happened because of that, because people have been wondering for over 300 years what happened.
It's not fun and games. It's not trick-or-treat and Halloween, which is all very well by itself, but it's a serious lesson to learn from it.
Salem is on the edge of the English Crown Colony. It is threatened to the north by the French, who have Native American tribes on their side. Together, they attack the outlying settlements and slaughter the inhabitants. Any survivors flee southwards to Salem. In the eyes of the devout Puritans, the French and the Native Americans are one and the same, the boogeyman, the devil incarnate, who lurks in the woods.
Imagine that we live in that world and we know that there are evil forces out there and that they look to harm us, but we can't even say for sure who they are.
Revolutionen er her. Størstedelen af unge mellem 14 til 25 ønsker at starte deres egen online virksomhed.
Nogle dage på vand og brød for at overtræde et tilhold, polititilhold, de har imod at stå og hænge på det der hjørne herovre. De laver så en practical joke. De får en lille dreng, som kunne have været sådan en lille dreng, der løb rundt og solgte viser. Ham giver de et par mønter, og så får de ham til at råbe, den nye vise om dronning Esther, når hun går forbi. Og så bliver hun altså rigtig sur. Det hjælper heller ikke på historien, at da hun kommer tilbage om aftenen, der står de der 3 fyre, de står der stadigvæk. Og så råber den ene sådan, du kommer nok i børnehuset, din luder. Og så
Beatrice Horseman is one of the most complicated characters in all of BoJack Horseman. As the character is slowly revealed to the audience, so is her history, and though including her beloved baby horse doll, another traumatic experience for the young girl. In 1963, at 18 years old, Beatrice debuted at her very own debutante ball. She went through this process effectively to humor her father, though it was clear that she didn't think much of the tradition.
Will it end poverty, war, and injustice, or bring back civil rights activist Medgar Evers?
Joseph attempted to pair Beatrice up with Corbin Creamerman, a member of the wealthy and respected Creamerman family, but at the ball, Beatrice met a horse named Butterscotch Horseman. Butterscotch seemingly represented everything that her father didn't. The two shared some banter, and eventually they ditched the rest of the ball together, spending a lovely evening under the stars. 2 weeks after the ball, Joseph was still furious over Beatrice's actions and forced her to make it up to Corbin by going out with him. While on a stroll through the park, Beatrice slowly started to realize that she actually had a lot in common with Corbin Creamerman, and she started to entertain the idea of actually being with him.
Oh dear!
This was unfortunately interrupted by explosive vomit, which led to Beatrice learning that she...
Birincisini alabildiler de.
Hızlı olganda diskenemezsin. Men ömrü hiç hızlı olganda diskenemezsin. Men ömür hiç görgen emes bunu.
Yok Kudakay, men de gözüm yaxşı görüp, şu sen men içmesen de men adak içmeyim. Ezeli adak içmeyim. Davay, götür. Anam,
From here on, it's up to the women of the family to get the girl to put on the bridal scarf and agree to the wedding.
And that no one is owed a story.
Roots in Rastafarianism. When asked by a partygoer which sect, Ezra began screaming and flashed a gun. After embarrassing himself quite thoroughly, Ezra thought it wise to address a mother about her 12-year-old child. I've his actions and want him held accountable. They believe he has a pattern of targeting and grooming vulnerable young people. Apparently, Ezra has the time to do this, not just with Takata, but with other victims as well. Earlier in the year, it was revealed that one of Ezra's wild nights out led him to a house party in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Do you feel dissatisfied with your well-paying job? Give me a few seconds and see what other people with well-paying jobs did.
Nogle dage på vand og brød for at overtræde et polititilhold, de har imod at stå og hænge på det der hjørne. Det her øgenavn har åbenbart, det har hun ikke været glad for.
Wanted to live out their ideal of a devout Christian community.
The dogs delight to bark and bite.
Love you the Bible?
1692. A merciless witch hunt in the New World.
She must be under some evil hand.
A community of pious Puritans in New England believed the devil was among them.
Tell me, who does come into my house?
That's a ghost. Here, in this house.
Order! Why do you hurt these children?
I have not hurt them. Did you bring a black man with you today? I'm an innocent person.
The devil hath been raised in Salem village.
They hate themselves. They're killing everybody up, all right?
Back down, please.
White power. White power. Hey, we can do it.
Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having an amazing day. So let's have a look at what the books say. Do they agree with this map, or do they agree with what we're told in our history books? So this is a book. So just open him up, and you can see this is, oh, thought this one had a date. I cannot, oh there, 1729 is a production date of this book. And it is basically, the title of the book is, The Pleasant Gallery of the World, where we see in a large number of very exact maps and beautiful soft sizes the main empires, republics, provinces, cities, towns and fortresses, islands, coasts, and obviously didn't get enough of that, English, battlements, Africa.
Beatrice Horseman is one of the most complicated characters in all of BoJack Horseman of Crackerjack, but Honey got the worst of it. Joseph's discomfort with Honey's pain and grief was apparent, and he left the pair of them at the summer home. By August, America had declared the war over, and fireworks marked the celebrations in Harper's Landing. Honey decided that she and Beatrice needed to go out and celebrate, and they ended up at a restaurant in town. While there, Honey had a bit of a mental breakdown. She publicly sang her half of the duet she used to sing with Crackerjack, I Will Always Think of You. After finishing She went through this process effectively to humor her father, though it was clear that she didn't think much of the tradition.
Will it end poverty, war, and injustice, or bring back civil rights activist Medgar Evers?
Joseph attempted to pair Beatrice up with Corbin Creamerman, a member of the wealthy and respected Creamerman family, but at the ball, Beatrice met a horse named Butterscotch Horseman. Butterscotch seemingly represented everything that her father didn't. The two shared some banter, and eventually they ditched the rest of the ball together, spending a lovely evening under the stars. 2 weeks after the ball, Joseph was still furious over Beatrice's actions and forced her to make it up to Corbin by going out with him. While on a stroll through the park, Beatrice slowly started to realize that she actually had a lot in common with Corbin Creamerman, and she started to entertain the idea of actually being with him.
Oh dear!
This was unfortunately interrupted by explosive vomit, which led to Beatrice learning that she is pregnant with Butterscotch's child. Butterscotch initially wanted Beatrice to get rid of the baby, but her traumatic experience with her baby doll as a child prevented her from entertaining the idea. The two of them eloped to San Francisco, and on January 2nd, 1964, BoJack Horseman was born. The Horseman family dynamic was an unhealthy one. Throughout the 60s and early 70s, Beatrice and Butterscotch resented each other greatly. Butterscotch resented Beatrice for not supporting his desire to write a great American novel, while Beatrice resented Butterscotch for not accepting her father's help and providing a better life for herself and BoJack. But in 1970, Butterscotch finally agreed to accept that help. He took a job at Sugarman West, and very quickly the Horseman family's living situation started to improve. But this didn't improve their relationship. The two of them consistently fought about things like infidelity.
I can hear you're flirting through the wall when you're supposedly working on your novel.
Beatrice's resentment would extend to her son BoJack as well. She consistently abused BoJack verbally. She would force him to perform for her friends when he didn't want to. In 1972, BoJack tried one of Beatrice's cigarettes. Beatrice then forced BoJack to finish the entire cigarette and even berated him for coughing while smoking it. When she asked what she was punishing him for, Beatrice said this:
I'm punishing you for being alive.
Beatrice and Butterscotch's fight over his infidelity would continue through their relationship. In 1973, they got into a particularly aggressive fight while BoJack watched Secretariat on the Dick Cavett show. After Butterscotch left, Beatrice sat down and said this to BoJack:
You better grow up to be something great, to make up for all the damage you've done.
I will.
Sometime in the mid to late 70s, Beatrice saw the Henrik Ibsen play A Doll's House, which sent her into a bit of an existential crisis, forcing Butterscotch to pick up BoJack from soccer practice. Beatrice remained cruel to BoJack through his teenage years. When he joined the football team, she told him he would just embarrass himself. In the
They hate themselves. They're killing everybody up, all right? Back down, please.